This is 2 Timothy chapter 3 and verse 1. It reads, "This know also, that in the last days perilous times shall come." Shalom Akim, Kal Haloyim La, Alahayanawa, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem V'chakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, of whom I've grown in this truth under. Shalom to the Akim out there that's pushing the truth, that's laboring in the word, and that's pushing the gospel of the great kingdom that's soon to come. Shalom to the Akwath that's listening in, that's remaining true to the faith, and remaining faithful and submissive to their husbands and guiding their children. And shalom to the hopeful elect, to the 12 tribes scattered abroad throughout the four corners of the earth. You Israelite foreigners out there who live among the heathen and who look like those heathen nations, but your lineage goes back to the progenitors of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel through the line of your fathers. I want to say peace and blessings to you all, Barakatham. It's your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, come with another lesson through the Spirit, Lord willing to be edifying to the Lord's elect. All right, perilous times are coming. And we as the prophets we're not here to sugarcoat things. All right? We're not here to hold your hand or do any of that. We're here to warn you. That's what the true prophets are here for. When you want to hear smooth words, when you want to hear pleasant things, that's when you go to the false prophets. You go to them. You don't come to the true prophets for that type of message. You don't come to the true prophets for prosperity doctrines and messages that make you feel bubbly and warm inside. No. That's not what the prophets are here for. Let's go to Jeremiah. This is Jeremiah chapter 28 and verse 8. It reads, "The prophets that have been before me and before thee of old prophesied both against many countries and against great kingdoms, of war and of evil and of pestilence. Of war and of evil and of pestilence." Verse 9. "The prophet which prophesieth of peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, then shall the prophet be known that the Lord had truly sent him." You see what I'm saying? You have a distinction, all right, that our Lord Yahweh Shai had warned his disciples of. And then his disciples who went on to become apostles went and warned those that would follow them that there will come in the last days scoffers, there will come false prophets, ravening wolves in sheep's clothing. You see what I'm saying? Those who would not spare the flock. But the scriptures tell us that where there's no vision, the people perish. Right? Let me get that precept real quick. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 18. "Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he." All right, and what is the vision? All right, the vision is none other than the prophecies that's coming from the men of the Lord, the words that's coming from the prophets. All right. Very soon, these words won't be found anymore. All right. Ezekiel chapter 7 and verse 25. Destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. Then shall they seek a vision of the prophet. But the laws shall perish from the priests, and counsel from the ancients. So in those last days, those final moments, before the Lord closes up shop and stops the warning, all right, we're in the final phase of this, where the prophets will no longer be out here, all right, giving reproof, correction, edification, exhortation, and all that's going to be left is the destruction, the judgment. All right. So I got a couple articles that I want to get into. Okay. And I may skim through a couple of them, you know what I'm saying, for time's sake. But I want to get this going. That's why I started with Jeremiah the 28th chapter, or shall I say I got into Jeremiah the 28th chapter, the 8th verse. All right, going into wars, evils, and pestilence, man, because this is what we're going to face. All right. So let's start this off with wars. Let's go to Matthew real quickly. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 7. It says, let's start at verse 6. It reads, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." Bear with me. This article comes from endoftheamericandream.com. And it reads, the headline reads, "Russian forces achieve a major breakthrough in Ukraine, and that will complicate last-ditch peace talks in Alaska on Friday." Decisions that are made in the coming days will have enormous implications for the future of humanity. I love the fact that President Trump is going to sit down with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Alaska on Friday, but the fact that Russian forces are penetrating very deeply in the Ukrainian-held territory in the Donetsk region is going to make negotiations very complicated. The Russians feel like they have more leverage than ever, and so they have absolutely no incentive to make compromises. If Ukrainians don't hand over the territory that Russia wants, the Russians will just take it. Of course, the Ukrainians and their European allies have no intentions of giving the Russians what they want. And so it will literally be a major miracle if President Trump is able to come up with a deal that will satisfy everyone. But there is no other choice than to shoot for a miracle, because the road that we are currently on could lead to nuclear war with the one nation on earth that has enough power to completely destroy us. And this is a part of prophecy. All right? This is a part of prophecy. Babylon's destruction is imminent. Okay? Let's get this in the book of Jeremiah. All right, this is what the prophets are here to warn you about. Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 14. "Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about. All ye that bend the bow, shoot at her. Spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. Shout against her round about. She hath given her hand. Her foundations are fallen. Her walls are thrown down. For it is the vengeance of the Lord. Take vengeance upon her, as she hath done, do unto her. What has America done to others? America dropped the bomb. America annihilated tens, hundreds of thousands in instants. America has done this. Slocky. All right. And as I got into, I believe it was the day before yesterday, I got into the fact that America is that hammer of the whole earth. All right, that has caused the destruction of many nations, man. All right, staying here in Jeremiah the 50th chapter. Okay, jumping down to verse 22, it says, "A sound of battle is in the land, and of great destruction. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among nations?" Look, literally right now, America is forced to try and make deals. But in times past, they didn't have to go and make deals. They just had to go. They just had to go and take what they wanted. You see what I'm saying? But that time is different now. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 33. Isaiah chapter 33. And verse 1. It reads, "Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled, and when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee." All right? So all these nations are looking at America sideways because these other nations are stronger now. All right? And America, no matter what you want to think about America, she's become weak. All right? She has become weak. Let's go here. Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 9. It reads, "Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up of their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say unto thee, Art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us?" America's not the only one that has nuclear power, nuclear capabilities anymore. All these other nations have nuclear capability. China, Russia, North Korea, Pakistan, so on and so forth, man. India. Okay? And these nations aren't very fond of what America has been doing. America has made enemies more than she would like. All right? So let's continue on. Let's go to another article real quick. Bear with me. This is from endtimeheadlines.org. It reads, "How Trump's DC takeover could supercharge surveillance." All right? Remember, we come to speak of war and of evil and of pestilences. Now we're dealing with evils. Evils are coming. Okay? Martial law is coming. A dictatorship is being formulated right in front of you. And here we are. We find ourselves in a very peculiar time in history because we're looking at one of the greatest displays of hypocrisy and irony, all right, in our lifetime. A dictatorship is being made is being put in place under the watch of those who claim to be against tyranny, right? A dictatorship is being established right in front of our eyes under the watch of those who claim to be against tyranny. All right, let that sink in. We have AI surveillance. We have military personnel in the streets of America. And all of this is hinging upon the promise of peace. Let's go to 1 Thessalonians. First Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 3. It reads, "For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." All right? And Trump has been talking about peace and safety. He's talking about law and order. Okay? These things translate to peace and safety, order and security. Okay? Order and security. Let's go to the book of Daniel. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 8, and verse 25. It says, and through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. All right? So we're about to see these draconian measures being put in place and implemented off of the backs of a promise for peace. And many people are going to be destroyed. It says President Trump's declaration of a crime emergency, quote unquote, in Washington, D.C. will further entwine the U.S. military and its equipment and technology in law enforcement matters, and perhaps expose D.C. residents and visitors to unprecedented digital surveillance. Brushing aside statistics that show violent crime in D.C. at a 30-year low, Trump on Monday described a new level of coordination between D.C. National Guard units and federal law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, ICE, and the newly federalized D.C. police force. Okay? Through peace shall he destroy many. You know what I'm saying? And originally that's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay? But understand that the situations back then are mirrored today. All right? We will have full, seamless, integrated cooperation at all levels of law enforcement, and will deploy officers across the district with an overwhelming presence. You will have more police. You'll be so happy because you're being safe. You'll be so happy because you're being safe, he said at a White House press conference. Let's check another one out. From the same website, this article reads, Trump administration plans to establish, quote, domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force, unquote. It says the Trump administration is evaluating plans that would establish a domestic civil disturbance quick reaction force composed of hundreds of National Guards, all right, tasked with rapidly deploying into American cities facing protests and other unrest. According to internal Pentagon documents reviewed by the Washington Post, the plan calls for 600 troops to be on standby at all times, so they can deploy in as little as 1 hour, the documents say. They would be split into two groups of 300 and stationed at military bases in Alabama and Arizona, with purview of regions east and west of the Mississippi River, respectively. This is literally a police state. All right? This is a police state that's being ushered in when there are people who claim to be against government tyranny and government overreach and big brother government. Okay? You don't see the characters that say, don't tread on me. You're not hearing anything from them. No word from the Patriots. Because all it took was for them to play on their emotions. And who are they that I'm talking about? I'm talking about these people that's in charge. The ones who really run the show. The ones who control Donald Trump and all the rest. The ones who control both sides. We're talking about the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Warburgs, the Gettys, the DuPonts, the Oppenheimers. These many families who have the full influence. The hands that you don't see. You see what I'm saying? Let's get this in Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from the Lord, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? All right, this is the hidden hand that we're talking about. So we spoke of war. We're speaking of evils. Let me show you another article real quick. Bear with me. This article comes from endtimeheadlines.org, and it reads, over 7 billion people will witness a blood moon eclipse in September. All right? Remember that we're supposed to watch for these signs in the heavens. Let me get this in the book of Luke. Luke chapter 21, verse 25. It reads, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. It reads, there is a great total lunar eclipse coming up in a few weeks, and the vast majority of people on the planet from Oceania to Brazil will enjoy it. The event will happen, depending on your time zone, during the evening between September the 7th and the 8th, and from partiality to the total spectacle of the so-called blood moon, and then back to partiality, it will take 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 24 seconds. All right? So, continuing, it says, most of Asia, a sliver of East Africa and Western Australia will get the full show. The rest of Africa, Australia, much of Europe, and the east coast of Brazil will get at least part of the totality and the partiality. This tells us that 60% of the world's population will be able to see the whole show, and up to 87% of it will get at least part of the event. As always, weather permitting. Okay? So we've seen a blood moon on the night of the Passover months ago. That was a heavy sign. And after that, you've seen major shakeups in Israel. All right. The Lord stirred up many things. All right. You had Iran get struck by Israel. Iran got struck by America and Israel, actually. All right. We've seen Iran strike Israel directly for the first time. You see what I'm saying? We're seeing draconian measures taking place. Okay, and a lot of things that's about to take place in September that's worth watching. All right, there's a particular event where governing bodies are going to come together and agree on surveillance, biometrics. Okay, so these are the signs that we were told to watch out for. So we spoke on wars, we spoke on evils. I'm gonna end this off with pestilence. All right, this is from endoftheamericandream.com. You look at this thing. That's a rabbit. Diseased rabbits with tentacle-like growths on their faces are causing panic in Colorado. All right, take one more look at that thing. Rabbits that have black tentacle-like protrusions coming from their heads are being spotted all over Fort Collins, Colorado, and many local residents are extremely concerned about this. Some people are jokingly referring to them as mutant rabbits, but there's nothing funny about the tremendous tragedy that we're witnessing. A nightmarish plague is infecting rabbits in Colorado and elsewhere. But like so many other horrifying pestilences that are spreading among wild animals, it has gone under the radar because it is not affecting humans. All right? How would you feel if tentacle-like growth started growing out of your face? Okay, and we've seen all these different movies, all right, going into zombie apocalypses and things of that nature. When I look at this, it reminds me of a movie called Splinter. Okay, and with that movie Splinter, there were these dark black spikes that would grow out of flesh, necrotic flesh, and it would become recombinant, okay, basically turning you into a zombie. We've seen that. We've seen World War Z. We've seen 28 Days Later. We've seen we've seen different video games like Resident Evil. You know what I'm saying? What's another one? The Last of Us. Okay. So expect to see things that you've never seen before, okay, on a grand scale. And this is what the true prophets are here to warn you about. You see what I'm saying? So with that, I'm going to cut that there. I pray this lesson was edifying to the elect of the nation of Israel. This has been your brother Zakaria Allah, branched out here in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. In closing, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Ruchak Wadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who rule well and who teach well. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. Shalom.